Hi, it's Lee and welcome to the Tesla Economist. If you know the global EV industry well enough, then you would understand there's a good argument that BYD is Tesla's biggest competitor. They make the most global EVs after Tesla. BYD is at an annual run rate of nearly 1 million. Of course, before you comment, I am fully aware that this number is bogus, as only about half of them are true BEVs like Tesla, and the remainder are of course plug-in hybrids. But China came up with the acronym NEV, or New Energy Vehicles, so China can look like they are doing better in the EV industry than they actually are. Whereas Tesla is at a run rate of nearly 2 million now, which is twice as many global EVs as BYD, and 4 times as many BEVs. Nonetheless, BYD have certainly surprised us. Back in the day, around 5 years ago, it looked more like NIO would be the competition to come out of China, copying a similar business model to Tesla, and benefiting from all the low-cost, efficient manufacturing out of China, even before Tesla. If you looked at what BYD was producing back then, the vehicles were laughable, or at least Elon Musk laughed at what they had against Tesla in an interview. They certainly didn't look sexy, or safe for that matter, and offering minimal range. I can only imagine how bad they might have driven. However, BYD kept making more and more models, refining and improving what they had learned from the last, each time incorporating new manufacturing techniques, the latest technology, better cells and batteries, along with copying where Tesla were headed to, and fresher new designs. With each new iteration came drastic improvement. BYD eventually worked out that it would be beneficial to make in-house cells, and they understood the value of Tesla's battery day, creating cell-to-vehicle batteries, using the cells as a structure in order to save weight. In China, it's a lot easier to produce LFP cells, as all the local knowledge and skill set is there. LFP cells are far easier to manufacture than the higher energy-dense nickel cells. So BYD got started on researching and developing in-house cells, and they came out with the blade cells, giving a structural battery pack. Yes, BYD beat Tesla to the structural battery pack in volume production, hence why you will hear this as an argument from Tesla bears, particularly if they have a position in BYD. As a result, BYD's Model Y competitor, the Atto 3, does have similar range to Tesla's rear-wheel drive Model Y with the same size battery. BYD caught up. Of course, BYD don't have the same acceleration, cabin space, cargo space, features, self-driving, safety, reliability, handling, etc. It's a vastly inferior vehicle, having driven one myself. I mean, it is lower cost to the consumer too, although I'm not entirely sure if BYD are producing them for as lower cost as Tesla can build a Model Y. We really don't know if BYD are actually producing a profit with their EVs yet. For the record, the only company that we know that is capable of making an EV at a profit in the entire world is still Tesla, let alone a fully electric vehicle. As remember, half BYD's vehicles are also hybrids, and I'm just referring to their passenger vehicles, as BYD also make buses, which might possibly be profitable. And yes, the company BYD does make profits, but they have other businesses, namely their very profitable cell phone handset business. My guess is that BYD are still making a negative net profit with their passenger EVs, but I think it is relatively small loss compared to many others, given the fact they actually have hit volume production on some of their vehicles, are using in-house LFP cells, and are all manufactured in China. But Tesla's price war is going to hurt their margins too. However, BYD and Legacy Autos have other very profitable businesses that can self-fund their EV ventures, although only to a certain point. What happens when these companies want to make millions of EVs a year? If Ford are losing $20,000 for every EV they sell now, it's not so bad if they're just selling 100,000 a year or so. But if it's 1 million, then that becomes $20 billion a year. Spoiler alert, this is not a sustainable business model. Even if they get their net losses down to $10,000 per vehicle, it's still not scalable. And then think about when they want to get to 2 or 3 million EVs a year. Really, how is that going to be possible? It doesn't matter how much they scale, they will still have car dealers and labour unions to pay for. And that's legacy companies like Ford, with over a century of experience in making cars. What about Rivian or Lucid, who are losing about 10 times that much per vehicle, with no side business to support these losses? Anyway, we're talking about BYD, who perhaps do have a chance. It's just all about scaling up from here. They need to make more cars, and then they will hit greater economies of scale and become profitable. And BYD aren't looking for massive profits like Tesla. I mean, it's China anyway. It's more about making jobs, not so much profits. Well, the thing is, BYD can only sell more vehicles if there is the demand. It looks like most of their models have saturated in demand, at least in their current markets. They could always expand in the US perhaps, but that might be tough given some major protectionism with the local auto industry. In fact, not only might the demand be saturated, we're seeing fields of electric cars in China being referred to as zombie cars, and some of these are BYD. Therefore, we can't even fully trust the numbers that we're getting from BYD in the first place. But BYD are so fast at bringing out new models, it doesn't matter. They'll just keep creating more and more models for different lifestyles and people's needs and continue to grow sales and grow demand. Except they've pretty much done that now. They have a vehicle for every body type now, including their low-cost compact, the Dolphin, yet that hasn't resulted in people lining up to buy one. Their models variety is also at saturation. They can't grow any further. Well, actually, they don't even offer a full-size SUV yet. They have plenty more room to grow. No, they can't enter that segment because they are only using LFP cells. When you put LFP cells in larger cars, then due to the additional weight, you get a serious drain on range. That doesn't meet consumers' requirements. Think about it. It's a larger vehicle which will cost more and then offer terrible performance and low range for a higher price tag, not to mention how heavy it would be with all those LFP cells, resulting in worse braking time and even worse acceleration. Yet for more money. This is why Legacy have gone with nickel cells. They'll be able to compete with longer range vehicles that are larger, like the BMW iX. I think BYD is more or less about what it can be, and this includes them still having to push half their vehicles as hybrids at an extra stretch. They still only sell under 500,000 BEVs a year. Tesla is at 4 times that. Yet people say BYD is taking over Tesla. Okay, BYD sales in China may be stronger as they are selling domestically. It's also much harder to compete with Tesla outside of China, given that Tesla also manufactures locally in other continents and doesn't have to pay import tariffs or additional shipping charges. BYD may have found their niche, being a low-cost electric vehicle for people who cannot afford a Tesla, but are desperate to go electric and willing to forego performance, handling, safety, a nice sound system, self-driving, cargo space, and all the other Tesla features. And possibly BYD can become profitable with autos if they're not quite there already. Although we don't know the difference between BYD's margins when it comes to their BEVs or PHEVs. I can't see BYD expanding their BEVs that much more, but in all honesty, they have surprised me to get this far too. They've done well, especially compared to the others, but getting an A for effort doesn't guarantee profitability. Whereas Tesla's models are so popular, Tesla hasn't had to bring out any new models. Instead, Tesla literally built more and more factories for the same model and kept economies of scale and improving and refining manufacturing for the same models, which are still evolving. Tesla is still limited by batteries, and there is no point in spreading their model range thinner until they have enough batteries, even for their existing models. Hi there, I'm using Verbalate AI video translation and lip sync software. It's pretty amazing. Watch this. I can translate my videos into other languages. For example, I am now speaking Hindi.
नमस्ते, मैं पहली बार हिंदी में बोल रहा हूं, लेकिन वर्बलिटी इसे इतना आसान बना देता है.
Or how about Spanish?
Hola, vaya, increíble.
También puedo hablar español. Sign up at verbalate.ai today to gain early access to trial the product for creators and strategic partners, and gain the ability to translate and lip sync videos in all major languages. You can view the info in the description below.